This NCFE Learner Toolkit recording is on the Maths Assessment Structure from the 17th of October 2025 because the assessment structure changed from the 17th of October 2025, and so this recording will highlight those changes. The maths assessments are one paper that are in two sections that have to be taken one after the other. The non-calculator section comes first. Once you finish this, you'll be asked if you want to move on. Once you've moved on, you can't go back. The non-calculator section can assess any topic that doesn't specifically require a calculator, such as using the exact value of pi. And do remember that for the calculator section, you do need to have your own calculator. You cannot use the calculator on your phone, but if you have a scientific calculator and you know how to use it, you can use that. That's not a problem. There's just one pass mark, so it is not possible for you to resit one section of the paper, and the result is reported as a pass or a fail for the whole paper. So even if you do really badly in the non-calculator section, it's not a case of you have to pass the non-calculator section and the calculator section. It is the combined number of marks that determines whether or not you have passed. We're going to look at some example questions over the next few slides, and I'm going to start out by highlighting what is the same about past papers that you may come across over in the internet or that your teachers have given you. And so the difference between past questions and live papers from October the 17th. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be using any live papers in this section, in this recording, but I'm also not going to be using the sample papers. And the reason that I'm not using our sample papers is because your teachers are going to want to use those for a timed mock with you. So it's better that you have not had any sight of those questions before you sit your live assessment. So all I've done is I've rewritten some past questions into the new style. So we always put a context at the start of each problem solving activity to give you an understanding of the purpose of the maths, and then all questions in the problem solving activity will then follow on from this theme. So in this example, we've got college admissions. Mel is an apprentice in a college admissions office. She's organising interviews for new applicants. The ratio of interviewers to applicants each day should be no higher than 2 to 15. There are 5 interviews available on Monday. What's the maximum number of applicants Mel should invite on Monday? So there's your question, but the rest of the questions within activity 6 will then follow on and be related to Mel working in the college admissions office. We always provide the units in your assessments unless a question does specifically ask you to state the units. So in this example, we've got a question here with Camrel using water, and because we're looking at the volume of water, then we are looking at meter cubed. And the other question that we've got here where we are going to need to find the mean of a group frequency table. Our answer is going to be in millions of litres per day, and therefore those units are given. Now, for your assessments, it is important that you know, and this has always been the case, prior to the 17th of October 2025 and from now on, working is marked. There will be questions that specifically ask you to show your working, or the question may ask for working in a different way. When this is asked, you need to be aware that you will not achieve full marks unless showing your working. However, if a question doesn't ask you specifically to show your working, but it's a multi-step problem, there will be marks awarded for the steps that you show in the note box that indicate how you solve the problem, even if you don't get the correct final answer. So as an example, let's look at the question. The data shows the volumes of water leaked in 2019, and we've got a table there. It's a group frequency table. Use the data to work out an estimate of the mean amount of water leaked per day. Give your answer to the nearest whole number. 3 marks available. It's nice and straightforward. It's an underpinning skills question. We just need to work out the mean of a group frequency table. We can, if our learner has given the answer that we can see there, 324 million of litres per day without any working, then we cannot award any marks. The mark scheme that's shown there on the slide does show that had the learner got the correct final answer, they could have got all 3 marks without showing working, but our learner unfortunately will get 0 out of 3 because they have not got the correct final answer. So let's just take a look if we could see their working. Okay, we've got here they're working, and actually in this particular instance we can award the learner 1 out of 3 marks because they've shown us the strategy of multiplying the midpoint. So for the first mark here, it tells us that you can give a mark if they have done the calculations that the learner's done: 100 times 87, 300 times 105, 500 times 153, and 700 times 20. So they have found the midpoints, they've multiplied that by the number of days. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, they have added it up incorrectly. So unfortunately, they have not got the correct answer. But their method, perhaps they've had an error with their calculator to reach the incorrect answer, but their method to start out with of multiplying the midpoint by the number of days is the correct method, and therefore we can award them 1 out of 3 marks instead of 0 out of 3 marks. Okay, now we're going to get into the changes. So these are the changes from past papers to current live papers. There are now smaller, more manageable activities. So you'll be able to recognize one of our past papers that are like in the old style because they have 4 activities, and that's at all levels. And the number of marks are shown there for the old style assessments. Now, however, we have additional activities because the underpinning skills activities have their own little sections, so that the underpinning skills marks are separated out. So for level 1 and level 2, the non-calculator section has 2 activities now instead of just the 1. One of those is an underpinning skills activity, so that's 5 marks available, and the other one is a problem solving activity, and there's 10 marks available for that in the non-calculator section. In the calculator section there are now 5 activities. Those in bold shown in this table are the underpinning skills activities, and those with the rectangle around them are the problem solving activities. The assessment strategy does allow for a slight variance in the number of marks available for each problem solving activity. So what you can see here is the sample marks available. So it goes 5 marks for an activity, then 11, then 5, then 11, then 13. But whilst the 5 marks available for the problem solving activities will not change, I'm talking about at level 1 here, you could easily at level 1 have the first problem solving activity, perhaps that one might be 13 marks in total available. Perhaps the next activity might be 12 marks, and then the final problem solving activity could perhaps be 10 marks. So there will be a slight variance. It won't always be the number of marks that is exactly the same as the sample papers, but it will always add up to the 45 marks. The layout of the question demand has now changed, and so you'll see that there's a nice grey box that tells you very, very clearly what the demand of the question is. So for this particular example where Jessie's writing a report about the number of shoppers at the shopping centre, she writes, last week we were only open for 6 days because of a bank holiday. The mean number of shoppers was 21,000 a day and the range was 19.5 thousand shoppers. Jessie has this information about this week in a table, and we need to compare this week and last week using the means and the ranges. So what we actually have to do is shown in the grey box, making it much clearer for you. A really big change is that as much as possible, the context has been removed from underpinning skills questions. So as an example, here we have a level 2 question, and all we need to do is write 4,908,630 as a number. There is no context here, and that's absolutely fine. Whereas for this probability question, if we remove the context, it would actually be quite difficult to understand. So here we've got the probability of rain tomorrow is 14 out of 25. What's the probability it does not rain tomorrow? Give your answer as a decimal. So if we remove the context, it would actually make it quite hard to understand. We'd have to say the probability of an event occurring tomorrow is 14 out of 25. What's the probability that the event does not occur? So sometimes there will be a little bit of context just to help with your understanding. Other changes that have come into place from the 17th of October 2025 are that there are more variety in question types. So you might be asked to show a check of your answer. So do practice checking your answers. You might need to do a reverse calculation. You might be asked to use estimation to check your answers. So do consider that and make sure you know how to do a reverse calculation, how to check your answers, how to use an estimate to check your answers. At level 1 and level 2, there's an increase in the number of multiple choice questions. And at level 2, there's a reduction in questions combining all 3 content areas. So the 3 content areas we mean are number, shape, space and measure, and handling data. In the previous strategy, you may have had between 2 and 4 questions in a paper that combined all 3 subject content areas, but in the new strategy, there will only be 1 or 2 questions that combine all 3 subject content areas across a paper. Please make sure that you get as much practice as you can in looking at functional skills questions. However, try to make sure that if you come across one of our existing sample papers or our practice papers, that you speak to your teacher and ask them, is that what's going to be used for your mock? Because what you don't want to happen is that you access any of the questions that you're going to have for your mock in your revision and preparation, because otherwise when you do have your timed mock, and please do make sure it is a timed mock that you do to indicate whether or not you're ready for a live assessment. When you sit a timed mock, if you've seen any of those questions before, then obviously you're going to do a little bit better and your teacher's going to think that you're ready to sit a live assessment, whereas the truth is perhaps you're not. So best of luck with your live assessments, and please do make sure that you know which papers are going to be used for your mock, and that you do not try to look at these before you sit them as a mock, because it just won't help you at all. Thank you.